Hi guys, I'm Danny, and I started a Sunday gym because I've noticed lately that people tend to go to colleges and universities without actually knowing why they're there. And afterwards, starting jobs that are unfulfilling. So I'm interviewing different professionals to see what they have to say and share their knowledge and experience with you. I hope you enjoy it. Mario, thanks for joining me. How are you today, sir?
I'm very good. How are you?
Quite well, thank you. The program will be focused on three main questions. What do you do for a living? How did you get there? How did you knew that this was the way to go? So that's what you do for a living, please.
I am a financial advisor, wealth manager with Cetera Financial Specialists, and it's kind of funny how I came to this career path.
Yeah, you were like
Um,
walking on the street one day and you were like, let me be a financial expert and genius, or did something else
yeah,
happen?
yeah. So it's funny. My parents were both immigrants from Italy, and my father, he was always an entrepreneur, and he started his own business. And I don't know if you know the culture back then. The culture was the family always got involved in the family business.
Yeah,
And
yeah, that's
and
very specific for Southern Europe.
yes, yes. And in as much as I always felt it was my father's dream, it wasn't my dream.
Yeah,
So so there was a little bit of, I would say, rebellion on my part. And I kind of went my own way. I didn't want to go into the family business. So I went to school and I started studying electrical engineering. At a young age, I became an electrical contractor. And the funny thing about it is my dad, he sold the bakery because he saw my brother and I had no interest.
yeah.
Well, at that time, I was also bartending in a New York City nightclub. So I was working nights and working days. So, my work ethic was one that was extremely different than a lot of people my age at that time. My brother had come to me and said to me, "Hey, listen, why don't we buy a grocery store together?" And I think at the time I was probably like 23 years old. So we ended up going back into the same bear trap that we were caught in when we were working for my dad and his business. So I spent 15 years working with my dad in a financial in a supermarket business. Now we owned a small grocery store that specialized in imported goods from Italy. I worked for my brother and my father for almost 12 years when I woke up one day and I said, I can't continue to go down this path. It's just, there was no quality of life. I had three children at the time, and it wasn't something that I wanted to do. And it just so happens a friend of mine came over to my home one day to talk to me about investing. And I didn't know what it was anything about, but he was trying to sell me a mutual fund. He worked for a family owned boutique broker dealer that he was trying to sell me an investment. And I went upstairs and got my file because from earlier years, I started investing when I was 26 years old.
Pretty good.
And I walk into the room and I show him my American Century investments. And he was like, wow, you made me go through this whole presentation and you've been investing all this time. So ironically enough, the shift of the meeting turned from me buying an investment to him recruiting me to become an employee of his father-in-law's business.
Pretty good.
Well, he didn't have to ask me twice. And believe it or not, within 3 months, I had passed all my licenses. But I still was not happy because I wanted to gain knowledge. So now today, I have more letters at the end of my name than in my name. I went to school. I went through the American college at 35 years old. I was working still in a family business, going to school at night, studying for my degree in finance. And I would say 7 years later, I kind of made a jump from the family business. And, there were hard feelings. I got to be honest with you. My family didn't take it well, but I knew that's what I wanted to do. So I was working for this boutique broker dealer for almost 4 years. And then what happened was I got promoted to vice president of business development. And next thing you know, we raised $500 million in less than 3 years on a program that I initiated, which was called CJM Wealth Management. And the company ended up getting sold to Genworth. So in 2004, I came to that crossroad again in my life where I had to make a decision of which way I wanted to go. Do I go work for Genworth and expose myself to more mergers and acquisition in the financial services industry, or do I start my own business? So, through a little bit of counseling from friends, colleagues that I had, I decided to start my own business. And it's been going strong since 2004. And here we are today, 2024, we're one of New Jersey's top wealth management firms. Um, I just finished writing a book. I will make it available to you so you could, see and make it.
Absolutely.
It's called Creating Wealth, a millennial Gen Z, Gen X guide through life struggles. Because, I was there. I experienced everything this younger generation is dealing with. I think the biggest difference, there weren't as much distractions back in 1990 as there is today in the marketplace.
No,
So
not
when
only
you,
the marketplace. It's just a lot of distractions. Well, I am all for trashing the new generations, just like you and I were trashed when we were younger. It's part of life. But I'm wanting to cut him some slack because that it was a lot of destruction, and it's just crazy now. The world has never been as dynamic as it is. And back then, when it wasn't so dynamic, you can still make a bad move or a bad decision. But now it's even crazier. So I'm willing to cut him some slack about that. You said something very important. I'm taking notes, by the way, when I talk to you, because your experience is crazy. It's just remarkable. So I strongly advise every young person, every young man, mostly, to be a bartender in their young age, because first of all, it's fun, and say you will deal with a lot of nasty stuff. Like, it's not exactly all the time fun when you're a bartender. You have to deal with all kind of scoundrels.
it,
You will
it,
get
it's
cheated
definitely,
with a salary, with a tip, with somebody who bomb on you or something. This will happen. I guarantee you. I was a bartender for almost 3 years. It's not often, but it happens. It thickens the skin a little bit, and it really it grows. My generation was that generation. Now military service is not mandatory. If you want to go, you can go, but if you don't want it, nobody will force you to. So it was more like a military training for me because you really have to be up in the morning. The bartender is not only, pouring drinks, you're also responsible for the whole bar. You going to certain warehouses, purchasing beer, wine, stuff like that, negotiating prices sometimes. So definitely it thickens the skin, and it grows a lot. You did mention investments, and that's pretty good. Now, I'm an old-fashioned man. I don't understand crypto. I had some experts. They explain it. I still don't understand it, so I'm not gonna do it. If I can't see it, I'm not gonna do it. So ever since I was 25, I'm 34 now. This is how basically I'm from Bulgaria, Southeastern Europe. It's a crossroad country. So we always had that mentality like, let's invest a little bit in gold because no matter what happens, gold just keeps growing. So this is what I've been doing. And ever since, when I get some savings, I immediately put it in real estate. Like, the market of the real estate is crazy here. I don't even know why people are drug dealers now. You can make more money in real estate. This is ridiculous. So yeah, about the book, don't forget to give me the link because I want people to see it, to order it. I think it's gonna help a lot. You did mention something else. Now, my third question is, how did you knew that this was the way to go? And that's why I kind of want to talk to you about, because at this point you were 35 when you decided to go over there.
yes.
You could have been doing a number of things, because you were already uh, very disciplined. working the day, studying at night. A lot of people are not going to do it. I'm not insulting people. I'm highlighting the fact that a lot of people will not do it. Uh, you're a family man. That means stability is important for you. So you could have chosen any number of things to dive into, but you went specifically with over there. Was it a gut feeling? What was it? You weren't, encouraged by family. That much is clear. But what was it? Was it a feeling? Was it like sixth sense? How did you knew that this was the way to go?
That's an interesting question, Denny, because I was having this conversation recently with my daughter, and I got to tell you something. Sometimes you're forced to making a decision because of circumstances.
Yeah,
Sometimes, though, you have past experiences in your life that will help you make that decision a lot quicker.
yeah,
So let me give you an example. You brought up bartending. One thing about bartending is this. In order for you to be a good bartender, you have to have excellent communication skills. You can't be a bartender, be back there and just be without a personality. So in my business today as a financial advisor or wealth manager, people do business with me for two reasons. They like me and they trust me. So it doesn't matter whether I'm selling a financial plan, an investment, or a widget, being anything that you want to come up with. People take action to reaction. So if they react positively to you, they will do business with you. I found that early in my career. A lot of people, they get involved in this business. And back in the day when I started, the commissions were outrageous. Now it's all advisory fees. I mean, I'm a fiduciary. We just work on an advisory fee. So I look at a younger generation wanting to get into this business. It's a lot more difficult because, you would sell an annuity back in the day. Somebody would give you $500,000 and you'd make a $40,000 commission. That's not the case anymore today. So I think the reason why I embraced that career was because I'm a people person. And as a bartender, you told me you bartended. It's a personality job.
yeah.
So if you have that personality, I think it's really something. The other thing you have to look at is this. I think back then there was a need for more financial advisors. So when I got into the business, I remember after I started passing my securities licenses, and there were like 6 or 7 licenses I had to pass, I was getting constantly contacted by different firms because there was a big need in my industry. And I tell that to young people today when they come in and they're kind of like on the fence of what they want to do for a career. And one thing I say to them is, look at where there's a need for a career. It's ironic we're having this conversation today because, as you know, today the student loan repayment program begins today. Now, when you
Honestly,
go,
I don't know much about student loans. I think I know one person that has them because that's pretty much a US thing. Here in Europe, I went to the Danish college here in Sofia, and it was a private college, and it was like laughably cheap. I was able to pay it with my bartending salary, no problem. Like a month salary was, I think, 50, 60% of the whole semester. Then I
that's
went,
fantastic.
yeah,
That's
then I went to
incredible.
Denmark, and it was free because, EU citizens and stuff.
And I speak about that in my book because
Really
I
good.
think today, yeah, I think today, my cousin in Italy is a doctor. And my
Yeah.
cousin became a doctor and she never paid student loans or she went to the University of Milan and she studied to become a doctor. And it's a different structure than it is here.
Very,
Over here, it's more of a business. And I think a lot of the students in my country here, they're being manipulated. So it's
they
very
are.
difficult. They go to school and they study obviously career paths that don't have any type of scalable income for them. You know, engineering, any one of the STEM, when you look at STEM, science, technology, English, and mathematics, they're not studying those courses. I mean, I love studying math. So, it worked for me in the financial services industry because everything we do is numbers and, it's statistics. So, with that being said, as a young person, you have to really kind of like do an inventory of yourself of what your likes are. And if you could find out, hey, listen, this is what I want to do, this is what my like is, then it's going to be that much easier for you to succeed in it. But if you're being forced to be a baker, like my dad wanted me to be, and I didn't find any type of comfort in it or any type of, listen, we're human. So there has to be some sort of satisfaction at the end of the day of your accomplishment. I enjoy mentoring my younger staff. I have a staff of 8 people. The average age in my office, with me being 65, the average age in my office is 37 years old. So
Pretty
I
good.
really enjoy mentoring now my younger staff to carry on my legacy here in my office. So it does require a little bit of soul searching. At 18 years old, you can never decide what you're going to do for the rest of your life, but you can begin to set the path of establishing what your likabilities are. And you know what? You have to be somewhat grounded.
Yeah.
Listen, I'd love to be a professional golfer, but that's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
So you can't chase a dream because a dream can ultimately turn into a nightmare.
Oh
So
yeah.
I always say to people, be rational with what it is that you want to do.
Know
And
myself.
whatever, yeah, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, at the time I was in business, so I understood business to some point. It's interesting you talk about gold. You know, a lot of clients will walk into my office and they'll say to me, "Hey, Mario, I'm thinking about buying gold. What do you think?" And I said, "What do you want to own, a jewelry store?" And they start laughing. Okay. So if I can really just address something that you said, I am a long-term investor. I believe in great companies. And when you look at great companies, what am I talking about? Apple, Microsoft, uh, Meta. These companies have capitalization of trillions of dollars.
Yeah.
And I believe that the global economy is a marketplace for these great companies. And, you go on your phone and you know as well as I do, you go on your computer, what's the first thing that comes up? Google. Younger people have to realize that these companies are in the business to profit. And you, as an investor, you can't look at a company and say, if you're an investor, you continually buy the company over and over and over again. You're an investor. But if you're a speculator and you want to trade the market, that's not what I do. I don't believe in that. I never did. I look back in 2004, when my dad sold his business, he came to his children and he said to us, "Hey, I'm going to take some of this money from the inventory. I'm going to give it to each one of my kids." When my dad gave me that money, I took it and I bought Apple stock in 2004 and I never touched it again. And,
Pretty good.
yeah. And did I know at the time? No, but I had a feeling, when I looked at Apple, I knew it was going to be a great company. When there's going to be great companies. There's certain companies that they can't scale anymore. And, as an investor, we look at that scenario. Right now, there's a big push for AI. You spoke of cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
I don't own any crypto and I don't invest in things I don't know of. But
Thank
I
you.
do know,
Exactly.
yeah, I do know that everybody walks around with an iPhone. I do know people walk around with Android phones. And I do know that these companies, they just don't provide um, a product. They also provide a service from all the different types of entertainment and different types of, monthly service fees that they charge their users. So, you have an iPhone, you're paying $20 a month and you don't even realize it for the service of the iPhone, for all the applications that are on the phone. So, as an investor, what I would say to young people is your greatest ingredient isn't the company, it's the time that you spend investing. You know, real estate, a great investment. You young people, they get drawn to Shark Tank, and you look at this show of entrepreneurs. I think Barbara Corcoran, she made her money, as a real estate investor. So real estate definitely has options, but I'm talking now for the smaller individual that's just starting out, making a decent salary. How do they create wealth? What's a way for a younger person to start embarking on a path that they can empower themselves, that someday they will have financial security?
I
And the
can
way
tell you
you
what
do,
I think, and you can tell me if I'm on the right move. Because that's how I did it. Ever since I started working, I'm saving 10% from the salary.
excellent.
Afterwards, again, I'm not gonna say the name because I'm not paid to do that, but there's this specific company. I mean, there are multiple, but this one is acceptable, that sells gold coins, bars, whatever you want to call it. I'm purchasing 1 gram of gold. Now, the reason for this is that you just keep it as a saving to fight inflation. Afterwards, when I have enough, let's say 6, 7 years, because that's how much it took me the first time. I went back there to those guys. I said, well, as per contract, you're pretty much obligated to, pay me for the gold I bought from you. So this is what happened. They gave me a pretty good amount of money. And I went to the bank and I took a pretty big loan back then. I mean, right now it's not even a real number, but back then it was quite a number. And that's how I purchased my 2 small apartments. When I told that story, it was an older gentleman, 80 something. I think 80 something. He said, "Can I see your hands?" Uh, yeah, those are not the hands of a builder. Those are the hands of an office man. It's a good thing
I
that
get that all the time.
yeah, it's a good thing that you've invested, but now you have to learn how to maintain the apartments. Yeah, you
Right.
can pay the handyman, but it's better if you know the place yourself because you will have a tenant. He or she will call you, hey, this isn't working. When you do it, no home is perfect. The Buckingham Palace isn't perfect. But when you do it, you will know the problem and you'll be able to resolve. Otherwise, you have to call the handyman. He will tell you, I'll be there in 2 weeks. Then you will have to deal with a lot of additional things you shouldn't. So that's how I learned how to do maintenance because it's a pretty useful skill, very practical.
Well, the other advantage to owning real estate, and I learned this from my dad because my dad was European and they like tangible.
Yeah.
And what I mean by tangible is they like brick and mortar. So when my dad owned an office building, he knew that he had a door and it was a building that he could drive to. And that building was generating income for him because of the tenants that were in the building. So, like I said, that is a tangible asset. And it comes down to culture.
Yeah.
You know, um, me, I own intangible assets, which are stocks of companies. I don't actually own a store that has Apple, but I'm a share owner in the Apple Corporation. So there's many, many different share owners throughout Apple. So with that said, I think you find your comfort zone as you did in owning real estate and you've made it work for you. You scaled it and it works for you. And that's great. I mean, I commend you on it. Um, I don't ever disparage people from what their goals are or what their needs are. I don't put my risk on people when I speak to them. My job is just to analyze and to kind of like present risk and how to mitigate that risk. As you own real estate, you just said it. Things could go wrong,
Yeah.
but you have to be smart enough to know how to mitigate that risk when something does go wrong. And you've done that, effectively. And that's why you're successful at it. So I don't ever tell people don't fix what isn't broken, you know.
Oh yeah.
Um, but that's that, Denny, I commend you on that. You seem like a young guy that's had very good luck with real estate, and that's fantastic. That's only going to snowball for you too.
Honestly,
That
real estate is pretty much a side thing to me. I have a regular job, 9 to 5 job. I'm in a financial
Yeah.
department, but mostly orientated in logistics. I'm at Cargill right now, pretty good company. So, but again, it's just as you said, the mentality and the culture, because Southern Europe is an interesting region now for the last 3 years. Southeastern Europe is also very interesting with certain conflicts. So it's always at the back of my head. You need to own property. So that's kind of why I did it. I really didn't have
there's
much.
only I always say there's only so much land in the world.
Honestly, I had this discussion with a friend of mine. He's into, those crazy conspiracies. Said that Antarctica is is isn't real, it's not existing, and there's just a wall of ice, and the government is hiding resources. I'm like, what resources are hiding from you? You live in an apartment and you can barely handle that. What more can you need? What more can you handle? And how are you going to? This is ridiculous. People, and he will look at me like, yeah, probably.
Ironically, ironically today, and I'm glad you brought that up. Ironically today, with all the social media, all of the, technology that's out there, it's a double-edged sword. I
Oh
mean,
yeah,
think about it. Think about it, Denny. I mean, conspiracy theories. It's nothing more than the result of manipulation.
yeah,
Okay. And a lot of people capitalize on manipulating other people. I mean, if you think about it, and who's their audience? Their audience are younger, vulnerable, naive people.
yeah,
Okay, whether it's on social agendas, political spectrum, whatever it is, we really have to understand that information and data can become distorted,
yeah.
and it becomes distorted and it becomes noise. And that noise has a tendency of deafening it up, making us deaf to the point that we can't move. So you spoke about your friend he's one of these people. He's locked into these conspiracy theories, and it really, at the end of the day, it has no effect on his life. And
None.
you ask him, how does it affect your life?
Yeah.
And he can't give you an answer.
No, at the end of the day, this is always a question I'm asking myself because I have this philosophy. My career started in the government, so I'm not even going to go there, but believe none of what you heard and only half of what you see. Because even if you see it, there are some things at the back that you're not aware of.
It's manipulated. It's
If it
manipulated.
if it isn't hitting you personally at the moment, just focus on the thing that it is. And because of time, I have a fourth question, and
Go ahead.
I never put it
All
down.
right.
But yes, if you can give my audience, and my audience is pretty much those people you're talking about, younger people that is this career for me, is this education for me? If you can give my audience one advice, what will it be?
I would say empower yourself. You have to figure out a way to empower yourself, whether it's family, career. And when you look at empowerment, what do I say? I say reach down inside and understand that your wealth, your good fortune is going to come from you, not from somebody else. Don't view yourself as a victim. There are no victims in the world.
No.
Um, you have to look at yourself as being positive every day. And the other thing I would say is effective communication. You have to learn how to communicate with people because people will be more helpful to you in a form of networking. Let me give you an example. My son graduated college and he wanted to be a police officer. And when he was studying to be a police officer, he had to put in resumes to all these different communities in New Jersey where he wanted, in the US, where he wanted to be a police officer, but he wasn't getting anywhere. So one day I said to him, "What's the plan? I paid for you to go to college. What's the plan?" So he's like, "Well, the plan is for me to go to alternate route, which is kind of police officer certification." So he did that. I paid for it, was another $15,000. Well, he gets out and he was still having trouble finding a job as a police officer. So he would leave every Thursday and go to the shore with his friends and party. Well, in August, he comes home and I said, "Listen, what's the plan now?" Because you know what? I had to start giving him hard love. And the
Yeah.
hard love required me to say to him, "What's your plan?" And he said, "Well, I don't know what you want me to do." I said, "I want you to get another job at night. I want you to get a job where you can network, either park cars, carry a golf bag, bartend, or wait tables. You need to get away from the same old routine where you're putting a circle peg. It's the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result." So he said to me, "I'm going to start parking cars for a friend of mine." He ended up going to this political kind of like event where he was parking the cars. And at that event, he ran to his old guidance counselor from my high school, who's now an assemblywoman. He told her what he was doing. She said, "Come to my office on Monday." And he ended up getting a job as a police officer.
Well, that's
So
amazing.
the networking that he did allowed a door to open for him. You're never going to get opportunity by sitting in your mom's basement or sitting in your room. You got to go out there and you have to connect with people. You have to be open. And more importantly than anything, we're all part of the human race, whether you're from Bulgaria, or the United States, or South America, or North America. We're all part of the human race, and we have to treat each other with kindness, regardless of where our beliefs are, whether they're right or left. I don't really care. I think what we have to do is we have to show a sense of humility and kindness to one another.
A college professor of mine, keep in mind, that I didn't have professional college professors. All of our professors are people that are working in this field, and they were kind enough to teach the students. So we had very, very practical education. A college professor of mine once told me that, when he's in a meeting, he always carries a few bottle of waters with him, and he's always giving those bottle of waters to the people that are, in the meeting. He said, "I don't know what those people like, their political views, their social views, their this and that. What I know is that they drink water. So this is how to establish it." I know it sounds ridiculously simple, but it's pretty good, really, because it's a good start. You drink water. And with that said, Mario, huge thanks for being with me. I really appreciate it. I should have you on for part two if you're interested. And I'll ping you when the video is uploaded.
Thank you very much. The name of the book is called Creating Wealth, a guide for millennial, Gen Z, Gen X guide through life struggles. It's available on Amazon. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, Danny, if you want, send me your address through your email and I'll
Yeah.
send you a copy.
Sounds pretty good. We can work something on that.
Thank you, Danny. Pleasure.
Likewise. Guys, I hope this one was useful. Please follow the channel on YouTube, Rumble, Twitter, Gap, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Ring the bell and all the good stuff. Have a nice week ahead, and I'll see you next Sunday.